Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at The Last of Us Remastered for the PlayStation 4. This title was sent to me by PlayStation Portugal so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. So before we actually start talking about the game itself and what The Last of Us is about, because probably a lot of you guys already know what The Last of Us is about, although I will kind of reiterate that further on in the video, I would like to talk about the specifics of the remastered version, what is going to bring to the table in comparison with the PlayStation 3 version. So for starters, the remastered version is going to be in full native 1080p. It's going to look great. It looks miles better than the PlayStation 3 version, obviously, but you can still tell that it is a cross-generational title, because even though the textures are looking a lot better and all that, you can still tell that this is a title that previously ran on the PlayStation 3. And I say this because I've played multiple titles on the PlayStation 4 at this point, and I can tell that, like, you know, The Last of Us could look a little bit better. I know that the PlayStation 4 is able to produce better than this, but at the same time, that's not saying that the game looks bad. I mean, the game looks great, okay? But you can tell that it is a cross-generational title. That is the point that I'm trying to get at. The game is also running on full 60 frames a second. I did not see any frame drops from the... I've played about 2 hours of it at this point. I did not see a single frame drop yet, and it was just running pretty much blazing fast, like 60 frames a second, 1080p. The animations were still looking great, because I mean, you guys know that I've always been more of an animations person than necessarily graphics and all that, and it was already great in the previous title, and it's great on the previous title. It was already great in the previous version, and it's also great this time around. The gameplay is still essentially the same gameplay. I mean, in its essence, it is the same game, but it is obviously going to bring, it is obviously going to come with all of the DLC included. And what DLC are we talking about? For starters, we're going to be, but the game is going to include the Left Behind DLC, which some of you guys might be familiar with that, others might not, which is kind of like a mini story that takes place in the middle of the story of The Last of Us. I don't want to go into too many specifics in regards to that. For those of you that still haven't played it, I like to keep my gameplay impressions videos spoiler-free as much as possible. But let's just say there is a section of The Last of Us where something happens and it's not specified what happens with certain characters, and the Left Behind tells you that story, as well as some more background story on some of the characters in The Last of Us. So if that is something that you guys are curious about, I would have to say that I really enjoy that particular bit of DLC. I thought it was very, very well done. It is not necessarily a DLC about combat and the traditional gameplay of The Last of Us, as it is more of a DLC about storytelling and about, you know, filling in the gaps on some of these characters. And it is actually, I thought it was actually really, really great. So besides that, you also get the new difficulty level for the single player, which is the grounded difficulty level, which supposedly is going to be even harder than the previously hardest mode, which was Survivor. Was it Survivor? I don't know. I remember that there was hard, and then there was another difficulty mode on top of that, but you had to finish the game first in order to access that. And now they added a new one, which is grounded, which supposedly is even harder than all of those. The footage that you guys are watching is actually being played on easy. As a matter of fact, I would have to say that on easy, the AI is pretty terrible. There were several instances where soldiers just started running from one place to the other. Didn't really make a lot of sense. The reason why I was playing on easy is because I just wanted to get some footage for this video. So bear that in mind, because when I did the playthrough, I did play on hard, which was the highest difficulty that I could play from the start of the game. On top of that, you're also going to be getting the multiplayer maps, which is also a part of DLC. There was some DLC for some multiplayer maps, some multiplayer skills, and some multiplayer weapons. There's also a feature which I still haven't had a chance to test out, because it is still not available as of the recording of this video, which is the photo mode. But supposedly by the time the game comes out, I read on the PlayStation blog, the feature is going to be available by the time the game officially releases. So that feature is photo mode. And what is photo mode all about? Essentially, you can press L3 at any point in time in the game, and that is going to freeze the action, and it is going to enable you to like turn the camera around, zoom out, zoom in, so that you can get some pretty cool screenshots on the world of The Last of Us. And to be completely honest, the world of The Last of Us is incredibly detailed from my experience with the PlayStation 3 version. So I would have to say there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be taking some really kick-ass screenshots. At least that is what I expect. And photo mode seems like it's going to be a lot of fun because it's not just about, you know, freezing the image and all that. You're also going to be able to add in special effects. You're going to be able to add in lens filters and all kinds of crazy stuff. So, yeah, if you guys are looking to reach out to the inner photographer in you in the world of The Last of Us, that feature is going to be available as well. And this is essentially most of the features that are going to be available when compared to the PlayStation 3 version of the title. Like I said, it is still the same game, still includes all the same gameplay elements and all that. Now I'm going to be talking about the game itself, like the basics of what Last of Us is all about. So those of you that already know what The Last of Us is all about, this is just going to be a little bit of a repeat of information, because essentially there are some people that have never played The Last of Us, and as a matter of fact, I understand that there's a lot of people who are against these like HD remakes and these remastered versions of video games. Like we've had Tomb Raider in the past, and we've had more than that. I just can't remember all of them. I just remember that we had Tomb Raider, and I think we had some other ones, but I can't remember all of them, to be honest. But now we're getting the Last of Us, and to be completely honest, I've always been somewhat in favor of these things, because some people are like, oh, but I bought the previous game, and now the previous game is worthless and all that. And here's the thing. There are a lot of people that that have bought the PlayStation 4 that did not own a PlayStation 3. And I say this both for games like The Last of Us, as well as games like Tomb Raider and all the other ones in between. Like, there are a lot of people who have never played these games, and I feel that that is the target audience of something like this. I've also had a friend of mine who sold his previous version of The Last of Us and is going to be upgrading to the PlayStation 4 version because he really enjoyed the title. There's also a lot of people that really enjoy these titles and want to play them at a higher fidelity. So I really don't want them to stop making these like remastered editions and stuff like that, particularly if they add in stuff like this, like the game is coming out with all of the DLC and all that other good stuff. But anyways, that was just like a little bit of a side rant. Sorry about that. So let's talk about the game itself for those of you who do not know what The Last of Us is about. The Last of Us is essentially an action survival game in kind of like a post-apocalyptic setting. The word zombie is going to be used to describe some of the enemies in the game, and while it's not entirely correct, I do not want to go into too much detail because I want people to be able to discover more about the enemies that are going to show up in the game as they play through the story itself. Like I've mentioned, I do not want to spoil anything. Let's just say that even though they're not necessarily zombies, they are zombie-like, and they are kind of unique in their own ways, which is something that I can appreciate. And this, as a matter of fact, is probably one of the only zombie-like video games that I've ever played. And probably if Naughty Dog heard me use that word so often, they would shoot me in the face because they would be like, "They're not zombies! Stop it!" So, yeah. But like I said, action survival, as you guys can probably see from the video, it is third person. It has a big component of you actually exploring your surroundings and scavenging for materials and hidden houses and, well, not hidden houses, just houses and buildings and stuff like that. And it's got a great amount of detail, which I think is very, very important. Like, for instance, in The Last of Us, when you enter a house, you're not just entering a house per se, because in my opinion, a house is essentially four walls and a roof, right? That's a house. But when you go into a building or whatever, a structure in The Last of Us, particularly like a domicile or something like that, it is a home. And the difference between a house and a home is that a home actually has details of someone who previously lived there. Like, you can actually go into different rooms and you can figure out, like, oh, this was probably the son's room with rock posters and all that stuff, and with a TV or maybe like a games console And you can go into the living room and figure it out, and you can find like messages that kind of give you details about the family that lived there, or even not just in houses, like all over the game there are side stories that you will be reading through if you take the time to fully explore your environment. A lot of times you will be able to gather intelligence on the positions of your enemies, or just learning how to craft new things, or learning about something that took place in a location before you went there. There are a lot of details like that, which really help bring the world of The Last of Us to life. I mean, the core of this game is in the amount of detail placed into the world of the game, because it really makes for a believable and incredibly immersive experience. And I know that I'm kind of just like singing praises to this title, and it is even not the kind of game that I would play all that often, but it is just a game that it is very, very well done, in my personal opinion. But obviously, it's not all just pink rainbows and unicorns. Pink rainbows? The hell am I even thinking? It's not all rainbows and unicorns and all that. There is obviously a little bit of a price to pay for all of this detail that you have into the game, and that is the fact that this game is essentially a linear storyline. You will go from point A to point B, and the scripted events will take place as you go through the title. And some occasions you will have to do QuickTime events, and other occasions you will have to engage in combat. But essentially you will most of the time go from point A to point B, and it is a linear story progression. However, they do give you lots of choice when it comes to how you handle certain combat situations. Like sometimes, if you want to, you can take a more stealthy approach and take down enemies by choking them or dragging them, or sometimes you can even use enemies as shields as you shoot someone else by using one of their teammates as a shield. There are also other situations where you can just use like bricks or bottles to distract someone, to push them in a certain position, or to sneak past them. There are a lot of options as to how you can navigate the different challenges that they lay before you, but at the end of the day, you are still navigating from story point A to story point B, and the story arc is always going to be the same. There are no multiple endings in The Last of Us. It is a linear story, as usually Naughty Dog tends to do with their titles. If you guys are familiar with titles like Uncharted, you will kind of know what to expect. However, this also means that you have a really, really high-quality narrative story, because, I mean, for those of you who have played Uncharted, you should know that usually the stories that the Naughty Dog team engages in are pretty damn good, at least in my personal opinion. There's also a lot of banter as you are going through and navigating these maps. The core of the game usually revolves around the main character, Joel. Well, actually, I'm not sure if it's fair to call Joel the main character, because most of the action is about Joel and Ellie, the interactions of Joel and Ellie. Ellie, the little girl, which you might be seeing in this video. I still haven't edited the video, which is why I don't know exactly what you're looking at right now. But yeah, that is the main, the meat and potatoes of the game. And there is a lot of banter that kind of tells you more about Joel's personality, Joel's story, as well as Ellie's own story. And in the Left Behind DLC, you will know even more about Ellie's story. And yeah, there is that. So the story, in my opinion, is awesome. The characters that you will meet along the way are also really, really good. I mean, it's just, I don't know any other way to put it. There are some really great characters that you're going to be meeting. It's just, I want to give you more details, but I really can't without spoiling anything. And yeah, the game also has a crafting system which enables you to craft things like spike bombs, craft medical kits, craft shivs. Those shivs in turn you will be able to upgrade your weapons to include the shivs in them. Like for instance, you can have like a pipe, like a steel pipe, and then you can put a shiv into the pipe and it becomes like this. I'm not sure if you can put a shiv or like pieces of a scissor, something like that, and then it becomes like a pipe with a scissors at the end, and it's obviously going to do a lot more damage. As a matter of fact, it's going to one-shot most enemies. So there's that. Certain enemies will require you to use certain strategies. It's not just about going up and just using brute force on everything. I don't want to give you too many details about the enemies because, once again, spoilers and all that. But yeah, the game is extremely solid, and I would highly recommend it. If you still haven't played The Last of Us at this point, it comes highly recommended by me. It is a lot of fun. It has a great story, lots of great characters. I just really adored the game. Just bear in mind, it is a linear game. It is not an open world game or anything of the sorts. It is a linear, scripted storyline. So just bear that in mind. Even though it does still give you freedom, like I said, to navigate certain levels in whichever way you prefer. And there are rewards to proper exploration. You will be able to get more materials for upgrading your weapons. Speaking of upgrades, what kind of upgrades can you expect? Well, there are upgrades that make your weapons easier to aim. There are also some survival skills that you can get, which will help you aim your weapons, because this game makes it intentionally harder for you to shoot a weapon. So for those of you that aren't used to shooting with a controller, because I know a lot of people that only used to play PC and now they're going to start to play PlayStation 4 as well. And those of you that aren't used to controllers, let me just tell you, on this game, it's even harder than on other games, which is on purpose because they want to give you a sense of urgency when there's a monster running at you. They don't want you to just be able to point and strike a headshot. They want you to give you that sense of urgency, if you know what I'm saying, like that sense of panic, like, oh my god, here he comes, I got to pull out my weapon and stuff like that. And a lot of times when you're doing crafting, your character actually stops. He puts down his backpack. You can see him rummaging through his backpack, crafting. It's interesting. It's got, like I said, a lot of detail. There's also a limit to the amount of stuff that you can carry. You're not going to be carrying 100 friggin' scissors on your back so that you can create 100 shivs. You're going to be able to carry I think 3 scissors and 3 pieces of duct tape, which will enable you to carry to create 3 shivs. Same thing for med packs and stuff like that. You're going to be very limited in the amount of things that you can carry. But you will be able to do different upgrades. Like, for instance, at the start of the game, you're only able to wield 1 weapon. You will then be able to craft a holster so that you can have 2 weapons. And by wielding, I mean you can switch them on the fly, because you can still have as many weapons as you want. It's just you have to set down your backpack in order to switch them. Having a holster will enable you to switch those on the fly. That is just a quick example. There's also different upgrades that will increase ammo capacity, different upgrades to increase like bow upgrades. You'll be able to get a bow further on. There's a ton of stuff that you can do in the game, and I really enjoyed my experience with it. If you still want to see more gameplay of The Last of Us, feel free to check out the channel. Just look for The Last of Us in the channel. You will most likely find my full Last of Us playthrough, so you can experience a little bit more of the story there to figure out whether or not you enjoyed it. But that is pretty much going to be it for this video. Personally, I think it's a great addition to the PS4 library. Something that I would also like to see is more titles coming from the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, because, like I said, there are a lot of people that are purchasing PlayStation 4s that didn't own a PlayStation 3, and they're still missing out on a lot of stuff. So I am not against this in any way, shape, or form. So anyways, yeah, that is pretty much it. As per usual, leave me your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.